How are you, Handy?
I am very good, thanks.
How are you liking the atmosphere in Abu Dhabi?
I love coming to the UAE. It's always a really good trip.
Yeah, you like the weather, the sunny weather?
Well, we get looked after really well here. Good hotels,
Yeah,
great service, great food,
yeah,
great weather. You know what the weather's going to be like when you
Yeah,
wake up in the morning.
absolutely.
So all good.
Do you prefer the sunny weather or the rainy weather?
Easy one for me. From Zimbabwe, I
Yeah.
love the sun.
Okay. So you are a Zimbabwean cricketer. You've been a renowned coach as well. How did you end up in Pakistan?
Well, firstly, I toured Pakistan in the 90s a few
Okay,
times.
yeah.
And really, I always loved those tours. I found them really interesting.
Yeah.
Obviously, playing against some of the great players in world cricket.
Mm-hmm.
So that was always interesting to play against such great players, but also interesting to tour a country that's so different
Yeah.
to where I come from.
Yeah.
Then I've also very fortunately not only become really good friends with your father,
Yeah.
because we coached together for 5 years with England,
Yeah.
and played against each other quite a bit,
Okay.
both in international games and in the county game.
Yeah.
He was with Sussex, I was with Essex.
Yeah.
But then also I had the opportunity of doing the PSL for a number of years
Yeah.
with Multan Sultans, which,
Okay.
well, in fact, I did 1 year with Peshawar Zalmi
Yeah.
in the very first year of PSL.
Yeah.
And then the rest of my PSL experiences were with Multan Sultans, where Mushi coached with me the whole time.
Yeah.
And I made some great friends in Pakistan, and worked with some great people, including the owners,
Yeah.
Alamgir and Ali Tareen.
Okay. Like you said, you've known my father and you've played with each other and actually been rivals as well. Does that help knowing each other's weaknesses and strengths?
Yes, we have been rivals,
Yeah.
both on the field and coaching against each
Yeah.
other. He's been head coach here in the T10, and we coach against each other here.
Yeah.
But it helped knowing and trusting him when we coached together with England.
Yeah.
We took our job seriously. We we embraced the responsibility that comes with leadership.
Yeah.
And knowing that I had someone in my dressing room as one of my assistant coaches that I can completely trust.
Yeah.
That's a really important. It gives me security as a head coach.
Yeah. So you mentioned PSL as well. How was your what's your experience with PSL?
So I suppose if I look back at my PSL experiences, I really enjoyed being part of the Pakistani domestic setup. The Pakistani audience loves the PSL.
Yeah.
They associate very closely with their cities.
Yeah.
And therefore their franchises. But it's also a very good product to put out there to the world,
Yeah.
saying this is Pakistan domestic cricket. Look at the product that we put together.
Yeah.
So the standard of cricket
Mm-hmm.
is excellent. They play a lot of good attacking cricket. Got fast bowlers, wrist spinners,
Yeah.
hard hitters of the ball on good pitches.
Yeah.
So the actual product of the PSL is excellent viewing.
Yeah.
And I think the PCB and the people of Pakistan are very proud of that product that goes out and showcases
Yeah.
the national sport out there in the world. So for a number of reasons, the PSL is very important to Pakistan cricket. And I loved being part of that.
Yeah.
I like making those contributions.
Yeah.
If I'm not like overblowing my participation. But that is important to me.
So Andy, can you share some memories from your early days in cricket and what inspired you to pursue a career in this sport?
Well, when I first left school, I worked as a trainee accountant.
Okay.
So I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And
Okay.
certainly being a professional cricketer
Yeah.
wasn't right there at the forefront of my mind.
Yeah.
But I worked in an office for a year or so and thought, I didn't think that was for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and played some club cricket in England.
Okay.
And I always wanted to travel the world. And this was an opportunity to travel the world and play a bit of cricket, which I was reasonable at.
Yeah.
as I played more cricket in my sort of late teens, early 20s, I thought, okay, I'm okay at this.
Yeah.
And then there was talk of us getting international status.
Yeah.
And we were given international status to play Test and one-day international cricket in 1992 when I was 24.
Okay. Did you have any cricketing influences?
My father was a very big influence
Okay.
on my brother and I. There were 5 children in our family,
Yeah.
and my father was an accountant, but he also loved sport. So every night that he would come home from work,
Yeah.
before it got dark, he'd get us out either into the garden or we'd go down to a local park or school,
Yeah.
and we would play some sort of sport together as a family.
So, what are the most memorable moments or highlights of your playing career?
Well, the most memorable playing moment for me was when we won our first Test match.
Okay.
In 1995, we had a home series against Pakistan,
Yeah.
and we beat Pakistan in Harare,
Yeah.
and that was our very first Test win. So getting that monkey off our back, actually proving that we can win a Test match against a great Test nation,
Yeah.
was really important for us.
Okay.
In addition to that, my brother and I got 150, and my brother got 200,
Okay.
and we batted together for a long period of time. I think we
Yeah.
put on 265 together.
Okay.
After this was in the first innings, after we'd been 45 for 3.
Nice.
So it was a pivotal moment in the game.
Yeah.
I think it's also a record for brothers in Test cricket.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So I'm very proud
Yeah.
of that record with my brother and I, and I always loved batting with him. He was a very good coach to me.
Okay.
So we worked hard on the game together in training,
Okay.
and we used to coach each other, and then we batted together for that length of time and turned that Test match our way. So that is undoubtedly my best playing memory.
Nice. So Grant is the elder one.
No, Grant's younger than me, actually.
So he coached you.
Yeah, but
Nice.
I would still say he was my best coach.
Okay.
Yes.
So tell me, as a highly successful batsman, can you describe your batting techniques and the mental approach you took while at the crease?
Yes. So I suppose I was a successful batsman
Yeah.
in international cricket, but I would also say that I wasn't like physically brilliantly talented.
Okay.
Like when I see some of these guys
Yeah.
and how they hit the ball, I was never at that sort of talent level. So I determined that I would have to make up the difference with
Yeah.
other things.
Okay.
And so I try to work out in my game how I could make up that gap, that talent gap. And I thought, obviously, working on my technique, working on playing the ball late was very important for me because it gave me an element of control about what I did with the ball.
Yeah.
Working on my physical fitness and strength, that was important to me and made me feel ready and made me feel that I'd worked harder than the opposition or my peers.
Okay.
And that gave me a high level of self-confidence.
Okay. Like, I think it's important to have that kind of mindset in this sport as well, because it's quite challenging and you face a lot of challenges and pressures in this game. So how do you deal with the mental pressures?
Yeah, you do face a lot of pressure. I think, well, in saying that, I would say people face pressures in all walks of life.
True.
You know, the guy cleaning these gardens.
I agree.
He will have his own pressures.
Yeah.
The lady serving us coffee this morning.
Yeah.
She will have her own pressures in life.
Yeah.
And so we all have these pressures to deal with. Professional sportsmen are no different in that regard.
Yeah.
But in saying that, and in answer to your question,
Yeah.
you still have to deal with whatever pressures you come across.
Yeah.
There are millions of possible distractions.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to control your thoughts to the
Yeah.
extent where you can focus in on what's important.
Yeah.
And I would say that's concentration.
Yeah.
And giving yourself the opportunity to concentrate well and focus in on what's important in that moment is an important mental skill for sports people.
Yeah. So were there any specific bowlers or teams that you found particularly challenging to face?
Well, Wasim Akram was one.
Okay.
Wasim and Waqar as a pairing.
Yeah.
They were both fast, very physical, great competitors.
Yeah.
And extremely skillful
Definitely.
in very different ways.
Yeah.
Very different actions. Their method of attacking batsmen was very different.
Yeah.
But they were both ferocious competitors and at the top of their game when we were playing against them.
Yeah.
So I'd single those guys out. I didn't play much against Australia, but in my very brief time at the crease when I faced Glenn McGrath, I thought he would be an absolute handful for left-handers.
Okay.
Because of the type of bowler he was. He could pitch the thing on middle and leg stump, but still go across left-handers. And that I think, if I'd played more against him, he would have been an absolute nightmare to face, I think.
Okay. So you served as a captain for Zimbabwe. How did the experience of leading a team influence your perspective on the game?
Yeah, I think that's an important and an interesting subject for me, because I was first captain of Zimbabwe when I was 25.
Okay.
And I think I did it for 3 years. And I don't think I did it very well at all.
Okay.
I thought I was a poor captain. So, and I never really learnt about leadership.
Okay.
I think it's one of the areas we're poor at in cricket is we don't educate our young leaders.
Yeah.
We give them the captaincy cap and then expect them to be brilliant captains and know everything. It's a really ignorant way of operating in our cricketing cultures.
Yeah.
So I'd never had any leadership education.
Okay.
When I became a coach and I started studying leadership in greater detail and depth, I started to learn important principles, like, for instance, the serve to lead principle, which the English military use as their guiding principle in training their officers.
Yeah.
And understanding that you are there as a leader to serve your troops is a really important principle, foundation principle from which you can operate. And once you understand that changes the way that you lead and the way that you interact with your people.
Yeah.
So certainly as a coach and a leader, I understand leadership better than I did as a naive young captain.
Okay. So what were the key challenges and rewards of captaining an international cricket team?
I think it's being able to represent your country and then being in a leadership position. That is quite a responsibility to take on.
True.
And I understand that responsibility better now than I did then. So there are all sorts of challenges that come your way. And I think as I've got older, I've enjoyed those challenges more.
Okay.
Like, it's quite nice to find solutions to problems.
Yeah.
Whereas I think when I was younger and less knowledgeable, I was overwhelmed by some of the problems.
Okay.
And instead of calmly trying to find solutions and use other people around you to help you find those solutions, I tried to solve them myself and got into more trouble.
Okay. Yeah. So, Andy, tell me, what motivated you to transition from playing cricket to coaching?
I think I did a lot of coaching even while I was a player.
Okay.
And then I wasn't sure what I wanted to do as I came towards the end of my playing career. But I was very, very lucky. I got a good break towards, like, right at the end of my playing career when I was playing for Essex. Peter Moores became England coach and asked me to come along as his assistant.
Yeah.
So my first real gig as a coach was assistant coach for England.
Okay.
And it was an amazing break for me. So I retired as a player and went straight into that position.
Okay.
So that was what really kick-started my move into professional coaching.
Like you said, you coached a lot while playing as well. But how did your experience as a player shape your coaching philosophy?
I made mistakes when I was a young coach in jumping in too early before I really understood that person or understood their game well enough.
Okay.
And often you can get a bad reaction from a player if you make a judgment on them early, because that's how they see it.
Yeah.
They see you as judging them.
Yeah.
And none of us like to be judged by other people.
Absolutely.
So once they know that my intent for them is good and healthy,
Yeah.
then it's better. You can have a much healthier conversation with them where they are more open to talking about how they might develop themselves as competitors.
Yeah. Okay. So as a coach, you've been involved in some remarkable success. Which coaching achievements are you particularly proud of?
Well, I was lucky enough. So I'm Zimbabwean.
Yeah.
But I was involved in 4 Ashes series.
Yeah.
In fact, 5, because
Okay.
I've just coached Australia recently in it, or been an assistant coach with Australia.
Yeah.
So I've been involved in 5 Ashes series, which is an amazing place to be as a Zimbabwean. In the 4 Ashes that I coached with England, we won 3 of them.
Yeah.
And one of those was away in Australia, which is a really important. It's a really tough task taking on Australia in Australia.
Yeah.
So we won that series 3-1.
Yeah.
And that was I thought that was an amazing achievement.
Okay.
We won a test series in India as well in 2012.
Yeah.
And actually that was the last test series that India have lost.
Yeah.
In India. And here we are in 2023.
Yeah.
So I think that was an achievement similar in status, I suppose, to winning in Australia.
Yeah.
We won the T20 World Cup.
Yeah.
In 2010 in the West Indies, and Mushi was coaching with me through all these series.
Yeah.
And that was the first ICC tournament that England had won. Okay. So those are lovely achievements to look back on.
Yeah. So like your team won the World Cup this year, Australia. You've also coached Pakistani team. So I want to know your perspective on where do you think Pakistan lacked in this World Cup?
Well, I've coached in Pakistan with PSL teams, but it's my brother who has coached with Pakistan.
Yeah.
So, but I know Pakistan cricket pretty well through my PSL experiences.
Yeah.
Where did they come short in this World Cup? I'm a little reticent to judge because I'm not in their dressing room. I'm not around their training area.
Yeah.
So I only see things from outside. So I think it's right to say I'd have a lack of real understanding about what's happening in their dressing room.
Okay.
But not all the teams can win a World Cup, and they had some tough games. Yeah. They were in a great position against India.
Yeah.
They'd set themselves up in a great position.
Yeah.
And then floundered, I think, against their spin.
Yeah.
In the latter half. They were setting themselves up for 300 plus.
Yeah.
And only just ended up sneaking something just over 200. After a really bad collapse.
Yeah.
So I think in summary, I couldn't put my finger on one thing for them. I'd have to understand their dressing room better.
Yeah.
To make a proper comment on that.
Yeah, I agree. So tell me, Andy, how do you approach coaching different players with varying skill sets and temperaments?
I think I remember a mistake I made with Paul Collingwood when I was assistant coach with England, just starting off as a young coach, age 39.
Yeah.
And he came out of a net and asked me, well, what do you think?
Yeah.
And I thought, well, he's asked me, let me answer him.
Yeah.
And I can't remember exactly what I said, but we were talking about his defensive play outside off stump.
Yeah.
And I commented on it. And there was a negative sort of, I was telling him that he could do better in that area.
Yeah.
And I remember watching his face, and he reacted very negatively to what I'd said.
Yeah.
And this was me should have been building the start of our relationship together. That was a bad coaching error.
Yeah.
So what I do now is I observe and listen.
Yeah.
And Then once I understand his game, understand his strengths and weaknesses better, then we can have better conversations. So I think the skill of observation and of listening is very important to a coach.
True.
And shutting up, quietly watching, quietly, and also listening and asking questions is a really important starting point for you as a coach and in your building a relationship with someone. And then once they trust you, you can say, well, let's talk about this. And away you go. You're much better able to influence them. And your job as a coach is to influence them. And sometimes that's saying nothing. Sometimes it might be demonstrating something. Sometimes it might be talking to them about strengths and weaknesses. And another thing I've learned in coaching is it's a nicer way to coach when you focus on people's strengths. And making those strengths even better. That's a really nice way to coach. And if you use that as a starting conversation, you'll see a completely different reaction in a player to you than if you start off with, well, I think you can improve on these things. Because what they hear is, oh, you don't think I'm very good at this stuff. So I do quite like talking about what they do well before I start focusing on things that they don't do so well.
I think that's a better approach, like to work on their own personal strengths rather than opposed to telling them to play like someone else, you know? So I really like that approach. So Andy, in your view, how has cricket evolved from your playing days to the current era?
Well, there's more money in the game. So people who are successful sports people these days are more secure financially. And that can only be a good thing. There is franchise cricket these days. So previously, if you wanted to be successful as a player or a coach in cricket, you had to be involved in international cricket. That's not the case anymore. And I think that's given people so much more scope to develop themselves as in different ways and with much more opportunity. I think that's a really healthy thing for our game.
But I've seen a lot of players still crying about the money because I think but franchise cricket has changed that, right? Like leagues. So I think that has changed quite a lot of these things. But
I think that is a very normal generational reaction to the present. Everyone looks back and thinks, or looks back at their careers of 10 or 20 years ago and think, oh, we didn't earn this sort of money. But people 10 or 20 years ago would probably be doing the same thing. And in 20 years' time, this generation will be doing the same thing. This is progress, and you can't halt progress.
Absolutely. Do you think these leagues, T10 leagues, T20 leagues, would help cricket as a sport expand in different countries as well?
Yeah, without a doubt. Yes, without a doubt. I think because some of these domestic leagues are being given importance in their own countries, the amount of cricket that is being played has gone up. And with that, with that greater exposure to game time, the sides are getting better. You look at Uganda has just qualified for the T20 World Cup. That's amazing. Zimbabwe hasn't. That's not so good. But the ICC has put some emphasis on growing the Associate Nations opportunities to play cricket and quality cricket. And we've seen the Associate Nations now come closer to the Test Nations. That's a really good thing. Holland, the Netherlands, and Afghanistan, they've just played some outstanding cricket in the World Cup. And that's a great thing for our cricket. You look at the exciting players, particularly in the Afghanistan team. The mystery spinners, some of the batsmen that are coming through. that adds value and variety
Yeah.
to our game, our world game, and
Yeah.
that's something to be celebrated.
True. So tell me, Andy, what advice would you give to young and aspiring cricketers looking to make a mark in the sport?
Well, I'm not sure what sort of ages you're talking about there,
Yeah.
but I think enjoying what you do is very important.
Yeah.
So, firstly, as coaches,
Yeah.
the environments that we create, or if we're doing a coaching session,
Yeah.
or if we're running a meeting,
Yeah.
we've got to make that interesting.
Yep.
Because we want those players to be stimulated by that coaching session
Yeah.
or that meeting,
Yeah.
and then they'll want to come back.
Yeah.
If you do a coaching session and that kid or young man wants to come back and work with you,
Yeah.
that's a successful coaching session because he's been stimulated. He's found it interesting. He might have learned something about himself. He might have grown a skill. That's how you build confidence, and we all want to feel more confident. So, certainly from a leadership point of view, that's what
Yeah.
you try to do. But advice to a young guy: try to understand yourself in your game.
Yeah.
Because you need to understand what your strengths are.
Yeah.
You need to understand what you're not so good at.
Yeah.
Then you can work at both those things.
True.
Understand yourself.
Yeah.
Understand how you react to anxiety and
Yeah.
pressure, because that will come your way.
Yeah.
And then if you can understand how you can react to that better,
Yeah.
that's a good place to be. And I think seeing some of the obstacles in your way as interesting challenges,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good viewpoint for a young player to take.
Yeah.
So it's not something to be scared of.
Yeah.
It's something to say, oh, okay, I've got to find a solution to this.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Who do I need to help me
Yeah.
find solutions to this? And see those as really interesting challenges, and then you're in a good mind space.
Yeah. So, Andy, what are your future aspirations, both personally and professionally, within the realm of cricket? Are there any specific goals or projects you're excited about?
Well, at the moment, I've got a foot in the door in franchise cricket,
Yeah.
which is I find really interesting.
Yeah.
In each franchise tournament, you're starting a new team again,
Yeah.
a new coaching team, a new playing team. That takes quite a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And each of those teams is different each time because
Yeah.
you've got a turnover of personnel.
Yeah.
You've had a draft or an auction, or some of your staff aren't available and you've got staff changeover.
Mm-hmm.
So that, from a professional point of view, that's a very interesting challenge each tournament.
Yeah.
I've also had a really interesting experience recently as an assistant coach with Australia, which I really enjoyed in the
Okay.
World Cup.
Yeah.
So that was great working as an assistant coach because there are less pressures on you,
Yeah.
and you can build different relationships with the players.
Yeah.
So I really loved that experience.
Mm-hmm.
So at the moment, I'm happy doing that.
Okay.
I've got a great variety of experiences, and I get little chunks of time off in between,
Yeah.
where I can be home and see my family.
How do you unwind from all this cricket and this career? How do you relax?
I like reading.
Okay.
I like playing sport if I'm fit enough.
Okay.
I've lost a bit of my fitness lately.
I doubt that, but sure.
I like exercising.
Mm-hmm.
I like walking.
Okay.
And I like seeing my friends. I like socializing.
Okay.
So yeah, that sort of stuff.
All right.
There's always plenty to do.
Yeah. Annie, what's your favorite food item? Because I have a follow-up question after that.
Well, actually, what I would say is I'm not very fussy on food.
Yeah.
I like food.
Yeah.
As you can see.
I can't see. Yeah.
I like food.
Yeah.
And I'm not that fussy about it. I have a very
Mm-hmm.
I eat anything except tripe and tongue. I don't like those.
Okay,
My parents forced me to eat those when I was a kid,
Okay, yeah.
and they really turned me off.
Yeah, same here. But like, there might be a specific dish that you like.
I would say if I had a choice, I would eat a good steak, some salad, and a few fries.
So what player would you associate with a steak?
What
my-
player?
Yeah.
Well, the man that springs to mind is Heath Streak.
Okay.
And not only because he loved his steaks,
Yeah.
but one of his nicknames was Steak.
Okay.
I think because it was close to Streak as
Yeah.
a word,
Okay.
but also he was this big, beefy, strong man.
All right.
So that's who I would associate with the
All
Steak.
right. And lastly, Andy, if there was ever a book being written on your life, what title would it be?
There'd be some pun around flower.
Okay. I like that.
Some
Yeah.
power. Flower power, perhaps.
Flower power. I like that. Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, Andy, it was really nice talking to you. I could feel you talked your heart out. I could feel the passion. I could feel the genuineness. It was really nice having you. Thank you for blessing us with your presence. And yeah, you guys keep watching, like, and subscribe. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Yeah, that was Thank you,
Lovely.
Andy. It was
Okay,
really
man.
nice talking to you.